It was a perfect day for a wedding. The sun shone brightly over the grand pavilion, casting a golden glow on the assembled guests. The air buzzed with excitement, but beneath it all, there was also a quiet tension. Everyone knew that this was not just a wedding, it was a declaration of love that had fought through trials and opposition. The officiant smiled warmly as he spoke. Beautifully, he began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness not just a wedding, but a triumph of love over adversity. Valerie and Jason stood before their family and friends, their hands intertwined, their eyes filled with love and determination. They had already faced challenges as a couple, and today, they were proving that nothing could shake their bond. As they prepared to exchange vows, Jason surprised everyone by adding something unexpected. I promise to stand by you against anyone who tries to come between us, he said, his voice strong and clear, even if, especially if, that person is from my own family. A murmur spread through the crowd, some nodded approvingly, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But Jason stood firm, his gaze locked onto Valerie's, making it clear that his love and loyalty belonged to her. Then came the exchange of rings. For a brief moment, Jason's face showed panic as he realized the rings were missing. His mother had been holding them earlier, but now they were nowhere in sight. Just as tension began to rise, Mr. Wilson, Jason's father, stepped forward and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I took the liberty of retrieving these earlier, he said quietly, passing them to Jason, just in case. Jason exhaled in relief, shooting his father a grateful look. They slipped the rings onto each other's fingers, sealing their vows with a promise meant to last forever. When the officiant finally pronounced them husband and wife, the entire room erupted in cheers. Laughter and clapping filled the air, as though everyone had been holding their breath, waiting for this moment to arrive. As Valerie and Jason walked hand in hand down the aisle, she caught sight of her boss, Eddie, standing off to the side with his phone in hand, discreetly recording the moment. He gave her a thumbs up that was both professional and genuinely heartfelt. The reception that followed in the Grand Pavilion's ballroom was unlike any wedding Valerie had ever attended. Instead of polite small talk and predictable traditions, the room was alive with an energy that could only be described as victorious. Someone had even created a custom Snapchat filter featuring a phoenix rising from ashes, with their names underneath. Your wedding is trending on social media, Jessica, one of Valerie's bridesmaids, informed her excitedly. People are using hashtag rising from the ashes and hashtag can't burn love. Jason's college roommate, Tom, who worked in public relations, approached them with his phone in hand. The Cleveland Plain Dealer wants a statement, he said. Their lifestyle editor saw the live stream, apparently. Her niece was a guest. They're calling it Cleveland's most resilient wedding. Jason chuckled, shaking his head. Tell them we're just grateful for everyone's support, he said, his arm wrapped protectively around Valerie's waist. And that true commitment means facing obstacles together, not running from them. Meanwhile, Jason's father, Mr. Wilson, was making his way around the room, speaking in hushed yet firm tones with various family members. His gestures made it clear that he was performing a form of damage control. Valerie noticed Jason's Aunt Diane approach their table during dinner, her expression torn between frustration and concern. Richard is beside himself, she whispered to Jason. Margaret's been escorted home, but she's threatening to cut you out of the family business if you don't come to your senses. Richard told her that after today, she's the one who needs to worry about her position in the company. Jason squeezed Valerie's hand under the table, a quiet reassurance between them. Dad has always been the backbone of this family, he murmured. Mom just never realized it because he let her think she was in charge. As they shared their first dance, Valerie couldn't help but notice the empty tables near the front of the room. The seats reserved for Margaret's country club friends were abandoned, their occupants having quietly left after the ceremony. But in their place, colleagues from Valerie's advertising agency had moved forward, filling the space with genuine warmth and support. Eddie approached them after the dance, handing them each a glass of champagne. Mr. Wilson is handling damage control like a pro, he observed. He's personally thanking everyone for staying while subtly letting Margaret's allies know they won't be missed. Jason nodded, watching his father with newfound respect. I think this is the first time I've seen him stand up to her so publicly, he said. 27 years of marriage, and today was his breaking point. Later in the evening, the wedding photographer hesitantly approached. Mrs. Wilson, the younger Mrs. Wilson, she clarified with a smile, I've captured some beautiful moments today, but I wanted to ask about the dress incident. Some guests took photos. Would you like me to request they keep those private? Valerie exchanged a look with Jason before answering. Actually, I think honesty is the best approach here. This is part of our story now. As if on cue, her phone buzzed with a notification. A short clip of Margaret setting fire to Valerie's dress had already been viewed over 20,000 times on a local Cleveland news page. The comments were overflowing with support, as well as stories from other brides who had faced difficult in-laws. Eddie glanced at the screen and smirked. You might not have planned it, but you've started a movement. Standing strong in the face of toxic family relationships is really resonating with people. As the night went on, it became clear that something remarkable was happening. Guests who had once felt obligated to stay because of social expectations were now genuinely enjoying themselves. Without Margaret's overbearing presence, artificial barriers crumbled. People from different social circles laughed, danced, and toasted to Valerie and Jason's future. 1 week into their honeymoon in the Maldives, Valerie and Jason sat on their private deck, scrolling through messages on their phones during their daily check-in with reality. Dad says Mom's staying with her sister in Cincinnati, Jason said. Apparently, Aunt Linda is the only one who still believes her version of events, that she was testing the dress fabric and everyone misunderstood. Valerie chuckled, adjusting her sun hat. Hard to misunderstand someone shouting, "Now you can't marry my son," while holding a lighter. The media attention hadn't faded. What had started as a shocking wedding disaster had transformed into a larger conversation about setting boundaries with toxic family members. Several women's magazines had reached out, asking if Valerie would be interested in sharing her experience. Jason reached for her hand, his thumb brushing over her wedding band. "Only if you want to. We can keep this private if you prefer." Valerie thought about the messages they had received from other couples who had faced similar challenges. Maybe our experience can help others. Not the way I planned to start our marriage, but authentic, Jason finished, like us. I stared in shock as the flames devoured my wedding gown, turning the once beautiful ivory satin into a burning mess of blackened fabric. The dress had taken 6 months to create, each delicate stitch carefully crafted to make my dream a reality. And now, just 30 minutes before my wedding, it was nothing more than smoldering ruins on the floor of the bridal suite. Standing in front of me, gripping a silver lighter in her manicured hand, was Margaret Wilson, my soon-to-be mother-in-law. Her expression was a mix of triumph and fury, as if setting my dress on fire had been the most satisfying thing she had ever done. "Now you can't marry my son," she declared, her voice shaking slightly, but her eyes burning with satisfaction. "Jason needs someone from our world, not some nobody from the wrong side of town." She adjusted the strap of her expensive designer purse over her shoulder, looking immensely pleased with herself. "My name is Valeria Mitchell, and at 25 years old, I never imagined my wedding day would start with me watching my dress burn to ashes." My 3 bridesmaids stood frozen in place, their lavender dresses a stark contrast to the blackened scraps at my feet. The room smelled of burned fabric and smoke, and my heart pounded in my chest. "Mrs. Wilson," I said, surprised at how calm my voice sounded despite the rage bubbling inside me. I reached for my phone, my fingers steady. "You have no idea what you just did." She let out a sharp laugh, brittle and hollow. "What I did? I saved my son from making the biggest mistake of his life. You really think a community college education and a job at a small advertising agency make you worthy of a Wilson? My Jason deserves someone from a family with status. Melissa Hammond, for example. Her father practically owns half of downtown Cleveland. She's a much better choice for him." I didn't say anything as I pressed a button on my phone. Instead, I watched Margaret's face closely, waiting for her reaction. Jessica, one of my bridesmaids, hurried to open a window, trying to clear the smoke now filling the bridal suite. The once pristine room now looked like the scene of a disaster, with charred fabric on the floor and the smell of burning silk lingering in the air. Margaret waved her hand dismissively. "The wedding's off. I'll just tell everyone you got cold feet. Jason will be upset for a while, but he'll understand eventually." "Are you sure about that?" I asked, my voice quiet as I turned my phone screen toward her. On the screen was a live feed of the ceremony area, the rows of white chairs, the beautifully decorated floral arch, and most importantly, the massive projection screen that was currently displaying a perfect view of our bridal suite. The video feed had captured everything: Margaret setting my dress on fire, her cruel words, and her attempt to ruin my wedding. Her face paled instantly. What is that? She stammered, her eyes darting from the screen to my phone. The wedding live stream, I explained. We set it up for Jason's grandparents in Florida and my sister, who's stationed overseas. It's been running for 20 minutes, capturing everyone arriving, the musicians setting up, and now, you, committing arson while revealing your true feelings about me. Margaret's eyes widened in horror. She lunged forward, trying to snatch the phone from my hands. Turn it off. You set me up. This isn't fair. Jessica quickly stepped between us, her arms crossed. Mrs. Wilson, everyone just watched you commit a crime on live video. I think you should take a moment to think about your next move. Before Margaret could respond, my phone buzzed. Tina, another bridesmaid, peeked at the screen and gasped. It's Jason, he's coming up here right now. Margaret's panic deepened. She glanced frantically around the room, as if searching for an escape route. This isn't what it looks like. I was just testing the fabric. Wedding dresses are supposed to be flame retardant. From the phone's speakers, we could hear murmurs from the guests. The camera angle had changed. Someone had taken control of the live stream and was now broadcasting the reactions of the wedding party. Jason's father sat stone-faced in the front row. His best man was already running toward the building. And Jason himself, once waiting at the altar, was now sprinting up the aisle, his face a mixture of shock and fury. Melody, my third bridesmaid, turned to me. Valerie, what are we going to do? Should we tell the guests to leave? I looked down at the charred remains of my dream dress. The practical side of my brain, the one that had worked 2 jobs to put myself through college, was already forming a plan. No, I said firmly, the ceremony is happening, just differently. At that moment, the door burst open. Jason stood there, still in his tuxedo, his breathing ragged. His gaze moved from my face to his mother, then to the ruins of my dress. His father and the venue manager were right behind him, their expressions a mix of horror and disbelief. Mom, Jason said, his voice low and dangerously quiet, tell me I didn't just watch you burn Valerie's wedding dress while saying she isn't good enough for our family. Margaret's expression shifted instantly. Sweetheart, I was only trying to protect you. She's after your money. I was testing her. Stop, Jason cut her off, his voice sharp. I heard everything. He turned to me, his blue eyes softening. Val, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she would do this. I stepped carefully around the burnt fabric, reaching for his hands. It's just a dress, Jason, but now, everyone knows exactly what your mother thinks of me. He squeezed my hands gently. What do you want to do? It's your call. Before I could answer, Mr. Wilson turned to his wife. Margaret, what have you done? Richard, please, the Hammonds are a much better match. They're old money. Mr. Wilson shook his head. Valerie built a successful career through hard work. You crossed the line. Meanwhile, messages poured in from guests watching the live stream. The venue coordinator hesitated in the doorway. Miss Mitchell, should we make an announcement? I took a deep breath. Tell them the ceremony will begin in 20 minutes. There's been a small change of plans. Margaret scoffed. In what? Your underwear? You can't possibly. In my backup dress, I interrupted. Jason looked at me, confused. You have a backup dress? I turned to Melody. Remember that Cleveland bride photo shoot last month? Call Eliza. See if that lace dress is still available. Jason's father nodded. I'll send my driver. Margaret seethed. You think you've won? I think love always finds a way, I said, turning to the live stream camera, even when someone tries to burn it down. A loud cheer erupted from the phone's speakers. Jason squeezed my hand. Mom, he said firmly, you need to leave. You are no longer welcome at our wedding. Margaret's face twisted in fury. You're choosing her over me? Jason's voice was steady. Absolutely.